Oh. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thank you.
Let's give a little play here of some of the work from Black Panther. And this is, let me actually stop.
Let's stop this.
Good start. Good start.
Yeah, right? Okay, do the intro again. I met Rod because I had started, still fairly new at ZBrush. I had started and stopped ZBrush twice before in my professional career. And then COVID happened. I was working in my studio, doing projects by myself, and I knew that I wanted to get back into ZBrush. So I reached out to Rod, and I convinced him to give me a class, So, and it was a lot of back and forth, and he found another couple of people and put together a class for me. And then based on that, in what I was learning from him in that class, I knew the next project that we were doing, having done the original Black Panther, and run into some problems with, there's a character in there named Okoye, right? She's got a tattoo on her head. And it was done in sort of a traditional tattoo transfer. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Tattoo transfer stencil method, where you'd put like an adhesive-backed tattoo ink, water slide paper. You'd apply it to the skin. You wet it, take it off. It took about 4.5 hours, and it required her shaving down to the skin, which, over the course of time causes razor burns, and it was very uncomfortable for her. So I knew that the first, going back, the first thing I wanted to do, and the reason I reached out to Rod, is I wanted to streamline that process for her, because she was in the chair for 4 hours in the morning, and then she was in the chair for another hour at the end of the day getting this off with a lot of scrubbing. And like I said, it was very unpleasant. So I reached out to Rod, and the idea was, is there a way to do this as a 3D printed stencil? So we could airbrush it, and and that requires no shaving down to the skin. You can leave a little bit of stubble because you're never going to see it. Now is a good time for the movie.
There we go. So this is one of the pieces of the stencil. Here's the design that's on her head. What I loved doing before we hooked up is taking 3D scans, working with ZBrush, kind of melding real-world sculpture, real-world bodies with ZBrush, and going back and forth. Here, that was just me scanning my face so you can see how fast you can scan someone. And then we took the head in, and a lot of the artwork was done on the head, and stencils were pulled from the artwork.
Based on the first film. We had a scan of her from the first film, and it was a color scan, so you had, the outline of the stencil. And I think that the way that I thought we would approach it is to do the red first, and then do sort of the black lines between the red. And what you came up with was to do it in sort of the opposite way, because, working from light to dark is typically, as a painter, that's sort of the process.
So what I want to jump in here and say, well, when we first started to work together, I've known Joel over the years in passing. When COVID happened, my work had to stop, and I occasionally went into some places to teach it, because I've been teaching it for over a decade. So he reached out, and doing teaching over Zoom, not so easy. So that's what Joel was trying to, it was like, oh, he would come to me, and I would be like, it's just so hard. It's hard to teach. And I couldn't be more happy that he was persistent. There's a lot of people in the special effects industry that have been afraid of ZBrush. They know what you can do with it. He's not afraid. And you'll see, we'll show more, that he took ZBrush from just a bit of knowledge, the best kind of student anyone would ever dream of as a teacher, because he wasn't afraid. He would always go and jump into it, work on it, come back with more. And to this day, he has pumped out so much beautiful artwork and so many designs nonstop. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it up if I can pull things up on the computer here. So what we were doing on Panther, he had the idea for the stencils. I had been doing some work with stencils before, and it was like a perfect marriage of what we were doing. So how we layered it and how I engineered his idea is secondary. Because then what we were able to do on Panther was, this was a time when the smaller Anycubic machines came out, so we could jump in and print things so fast. So we were able to brainstorm on the set, come up with ideas and just test them. We had so much leeway to play. And then there were other things. I mean, if you want to jump into the stenciling, the mass production of the gasket.
Yeah, there were, you know, when we started the project, there were sort of under my banner, we had to create these, there's this race called the telecanil that are these aquatic characters. And they have gaskets sort of around their mouths and around they've got gills on their neck, they've got gaskets around their gills. We started off by sculpting that in a traditional sense. I think Richie Alonso, who's in the audience here tonight, did a lot of that sculpting. But then we scanned that sculpture, and because we needed to mass produce these things, I mean, at any given day, there were like 60, 70 of these characters running around. They all needed to have these gaskets. And not everybody, that one gasket that Richie sculpted is not going to fit everybody, so we scanned it, we reduced it, we altered it for male and female, and then we molded it. It was molded in, wasn't the mold
well, we actually jumped around and, let's see.
I think the mold was grown too, wasn't it?
Here's one of the molds that was grown. So again, jumping in and using scanners to scan and then have it in and jump back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, I mean, and then you're making, one of these per day times, like an 80-day shoot. So per character. So that's a lot of, silicone gasket work. So what we did, because the paint jobs were so complicated, is Rod came up with a way to stencil the paint job on top of the silicone gasket underneath it. And then some of them, because there are so many, some of them are not finished quite as well as the background. You've got your A characters that have to be finished perfectly, your B, and then your C that you'll really never see in the background running around and fighting.
And so this
quick question though. A couple of people were asking, what scanner did you guys use? How did you scan?
So
what was that?
We had three scanners. I came to the table with Creaform's Go Scan 20, and Joel had the Artex Spider.
Oh yeah.
And now I have the PL3, and they're all like having really nice, fancy cars. Just which one do you need for the project? The Artex Spider picks up super fine detail. It's great for smaller things. The Go Scan was fantastic for quick, broader captures, and the detail was still phenomenal. And now the PL3, they just sent me one, is, if I can call it up fast, such a good all-in-one scanner, and it's under $10,000. It has infrared, so it doesn't flash in your actor's face. And we'll show this. If you want to talk a little bit, I'll go dig it up, and you can kind of see a body scan how fast that can go.
So the scans, what were the time frame that they were asking to, how long scans could take for you to do while you were going through the actors?
Well, for the scans, the actors would come in, and every time they were in our shop, Joel would say, let's capture them. And it was the best idea because you never knew down the road if you would need them.
Yeah. Sorry to jump in.
No,
I mean,
please.
Okoye, she had, I think, 5 doubles. So we had to scan all of them, and then Rod had to retrofit the digital information of the tattoo stencils onto each actress's head. You know, because now, you know, the heads, no heads are the same.
Yeah, what was the total number? How many did you guys, so you had 5 for one, right? Because you had to do the doubles. How many,
Exactly.
do you think, how many did you have total?
Well, the stencil was broken down into, what, 8 separate pieces, maybe 10 separate pieces. At a certain point, we broke it because, you know, everything fit fine because the really top of the head doesn't move that much. So everything fit fine up here, but it's the nape of the neck, and the tattoo goes down to the nape of the neck, that I was having trouble when I was applying it if she wasn't in the, you know, perfect position, or she was on her phone, or what, you know, somebody asked her a question. It's, you know, getting that lined up. We ended up breaking that down into 2 more pieces, and that worked out well. So each stencil was, I think, 10, maybe 10 pieces.
Yeah. And they would throw in a new stunt double
Yeah.
every once in a while. So it would be, well, we can do it in a few days, adapt it. So we plan for a week, but can do it in a few days. So the flexibility inside of ZBrush, for the folks that are ZBrush users, all of this is done by just masking and extracting. And that technique of masking, extracting, is used for mold making, stencils. You can do a ton with it. And precision extract is the way you can control it more. And being able to do masking from color, so you can actually draw on your 3D model and pull from those drawings. So there's a lot that can be done, and we were able to adapt very quickly to all the stunt people by just projecting the image onto another model. So it's very, very fast. Very fast. And again, without ZBrush, ZBrush becomes not only a design tool, it's an engineering tool, it's for mold making, we've used it for everything.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, end of that story is that Denai obviously was very happy because now there's no glue on her head. The stencil goes on. I think the fastest I did it was half an hour, 35 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Comes off in 10 minutes at the end of the night. She's good to go about her day. So she was overjoyed with that. But
the hours in the chair and hours in the chair.
Yeah, exactly.
What would it take normally if you guys didn't do this process with the stencil and using the ZBrush?
It was
what did you normally think
between 4 and 4.5 hours to get the stencil
per person.
on.
Per
and
person.
that per person, yeah, and then another hour at least to get it off at the end of the night. So I mean, it's extensive. So I mean, obviously, right there, you're a friend of production because they're not.
Right.
You know, they're not bringing in.
You don't have 2 in the
crews.
morning call times.
Exactly, and you're a friend of your body because you don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. But you know, aside from this, you know, and this is the first film that I had used ZBrush or you know any kind of digital technology in the shop on, and you know, on the telekineal, it came to the point of like, okay, we got to design ears. And initially, everybody was supposed to have these pointed ears with these piercings that, you know, sort of emulated Namor, but there was no way we're going to be able to get, you know, silicone ear tips out in that quantity, much less get the artists able to apply them so that they don't look, you know, janky on set. So what we ended up doing is I designed a few different versions of like sort of a jade ear tip that would emulate him, sort of, you know, honor him. But it would be something that we could just slip on, you know, in sort of a small, medium, and large. We could slip on to the, you know, to the actors and stunt people. And that was cast in a clear blue resin, so we just used the prints. You know, painted and sealed. And, you know, that way if you needed more, you know, one broke, no big deal. You just got, and then the print, you know, printing time for that was, I think, less than an hour.
Yeah,
you know, you can
truly. And this was on the Anycubic Mono X. We had the EPAX machines, which were great for size, but these really inexpensive Anycubic Mono X's at that time, which I see the M3, the 5 out there, the M5. Great. I mean, you have a manufacturing process that takes place in just a couple hours right there on the desktop. sorry to jump back to the 3D scanner just because it was up on the screen. I'm just impressed with the speed of this. Let's see if we can just bring it up. If I can. And this is real-time scanning. You'll see it in a second.
And no flashing light.
And this is just with infrared. So it's like boom. So if your actor can come in and sit down, and we do that, we have an archive that we can go to anytime to pull from the actor. And usually on a shoot, they will at the end of the day send them to a truck, a 3D scanning truck with all the cameras just to archive it. But this is something we can use instantaneously on the spot within an hour.
Yeah. And that's what we were doing. We had a makeup lab room up at Tyler Perry Studios, and they would send the actors in. We'd get them up, even if we knew we weren't going to do anything on them. It's better to have it, not need it, than to need it, not have it. So I'd send them to Rod. He'd scan them, and it turns out, the funeral sequence, they had, sort of markings on their faces as they were honoring T'Challa, and we did those out of stencils as well. So that your placement. I mean, anytime you do a film, that requires you tracking, let's say, scars or, dirt or what, dirt marks, or, you have to be conscious of your continuity. And a stencil is a great way to preserve that continuity. You pop the stencil on, this is where the scar goes, this is where this goes, this is where this goes. Take it off, do your artwork, and you're good to go. And everything's in the same place every time, as opposed to relying on photos and like, well, it's kind of 2 inches above the eyebrow, but he shaved his eyebrows, so who the hell knows where it is?
Also, things would come up. We had a nose piercing, Namor's nose piercing. And there are a couple of ways you can do it, and you just really want to avoid the digital aspect of having them do anything in post if you can. So I cannot thank Joel enough for asking me to teach him, because for me, a bucket list of things happened being involved in Panther. He gives a lot of space to people that work with him to come up with ideas and play. So he came to me and said, we're concentrating on the nose piece. And the freedom to kind of experiment, I came up in ZBrush, which became like a CAD engineering package, a way to do a nose piercing, house magnets, using precision extract to be able to get the exact size for the magnets, and come up with a way that you could just attach the nose with magnets that actually lined up, so they were always straight for Namor. Let me just bring up Namor for those that might not know him off the top.
Don't know what a Namor is. This is a Namor.
Let me just see if I can open this up in photos. Always.
Yeah, so it's a septum piercing, right? And it allowed us to, I mean, typically the way that, I would have thought about doing it would be to, do each half of the septum piercing and then, connect it with a bar or something. And either digital would remove that in post, or you'd do a little appliance. But, he's fighting, he's in water, which would have been a nightmare. And they would have had to have done a lot of digital work anyway. So this is what Rod came up with.
So there was no need of a prosthetic nose to hide any wires or anything like that. And that same technique was used on other actors with nose piercings. And we just truly had a lot of fun coming up with a whole bunch of things.
I mean, that's the thing that I was really sort of, as we got further into it, I was like really excited. It's like it almost felt like, having gotten back into ZBrush because of Rod, it's like, wow, there are so many things. And you think of like, well, I'm going to use it for this, and then that opens up into this, and that opens up into this. And then it's like, I'm a traditional clay sculptor, and I don't think I've sculpted anything in clay in quite a while. It's like we'll talk about some of the characters that I've been doing for my films recently, and they're all ZBrush. They're all ZBrush printed, and then we mold them. Some of them are ZBrush molds, printed molds, and we just cast them. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of how I I mean, I know that there's a way to do this you know, and I certainly would have done it with, you know, traditional techniques, clay and what have you, but so much easier. You can sculpt on the plane. Huh? Can't sculpt clay on the plane. They don't let you bring clay through the airport. I tried.
So someone was asking, they didn't quite understand what you guys did for the nose pieces. What was it that you did specifically? Or did it just...
It's two separate pieces.
Okay.
So it's not, I mean, obviously the illusion is that it's a septum piercing, right? It pierces through the nose. It's two separate pieces that adhere via a magnet in the nose.
Yep.
You know, not super strong so that you cause discomfort, but just strong enough so that they can, you know, they can act and it doesn't fall out.
What about him being able to breathe?
That's what the mouth is for.
Mouth, mouth breather. Mouth breather.
And Namor actually had no problem breathing for sure, because that's
yeah. I mean, you can, you know.
Yeah.
If you've had
someone was just asking, so I was like, I
stuffed
figured
nose,
I'd
it's
ask.
like the same thing. If you have allergies, it's like the same.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, see, I breathe fine. I'm still here.
You were the test, huh?
Yeah.
So I'm
I
going to
put
show
all this stuff on myself.
I put things on this drive too.
Why did you put that on?
Well, that was just for my sake. Of an example of if you get comfortable with ZBrush, it becomes just another tool in your toolbox. And truly, you as the artist can come through. And what's amazing with Joel, I don't even know when he has time to do it. So he's developed for his story Pumpkin Boy. Let me just bring up a character, if this can come up pretty fast. And this little boy here, which I'm going to show you a little video of him walking. First of all, it's extremely beautiful. It's all done.
Depends what you consider beautiful.
It's
Perfect for Halloween time.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Let's open this up.
Get everybody in the mood.
And let's have that play. This is a walking test. Joel can tell you more about it.
Yeah, this was, the animatronics were done by John Criswell, but this is just a rudimentary first walking test of the character. But everything you see here was ZBrush sculpted. Isn't he sweet? Now you see why he's beautiful. Has to walk and smile at you. Thanks.
Go ahead, you can clap. I heard a clap go out there. Yeah. Guys, that's a cue when someone starts clapping. You just join. You just join it. You just join.
So Joel sculpted this whole thing in ZBrush. I helped print it up, break it down. It wasn't done on a giant printer. It was done on smaller printers.
What printer was that one?
So I think that this was the Anycubic M3 Max, the M3, the large one. And now we're working with the Frozen Mega 8s, and I'm curious to see the EPAC or the new 16-inch.
APAC maker.
Yeah.
APAC maker out there. That
APAC.
thing's huge. We're giving that away, actually, at the summit.
Really?
I don't know how they're going to get it home, but we're giving it away.
I got an SUV.
Oh,
and Noah's doing the puppeteering on the arms. So good job, Noah.
there we go.
That was better, people, in the clap. That was much better in there. I like that. Very good. So this is a stop motion that you're doing for the boy?
Do that one. That's not stop motion. No, it's animatronic.
Oh, you're going to do
puppetry.
But it's for an actual feature-length film
Exactly.
that you're working on.
Yep.
Here's another piece that Joel came up with.
Yeah, this, I can jump in.
Yeah, please.
This is a friend of mine just finished a movie. He's my cinematographer. He does all my film work for me. So he had a sequence that he wanted me to do, and he just said, "This is Joel's sequence. Do whatever he wants." End of the movie. The movie's called The Deep Dark, and he wanted this sort of Lovecraftian creature. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to, just go to my fallback now, which is ZBrush. I'm going to sculpt this thing in ZBrush. We're going to mold it, and then shoot it underwater in a water tank in slow motion. And it came out pretty cool.
Oh, different codec.
Try using VLC, Rod. Maybe VLC's on there. Right-click and use VLC. Being able to play it. DLC usually plays everything.
Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Talk amongst yourselves for just a moment.
Is there a question in the audience? I've been getting questions online. Oh, here we go. We got one. I'm gonna bring the microphone to you so we all can hear. I'm trying to figure. No, I'm gonna come this way. I'm gonna come this way. I'm gonna come this way.
With the nose piercings, what were they cast in for comfort for the actors?
The piercings, those were casted resin. Those were the
hard resin?
yeah, that was the green. You know, for Namor, that was the green resin.
Okay.
Green,
not
like,
not soft
resin.
silicon or anything like that?
No.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was all rigid. I mean, you know, because you don't want that silicone because it could flex, and you know, and if they're in tight, you know, then they're into digital cleanup, and
We got another question
I
right here
lose my job.
on the other side of the building. Here we go.
Hi, guys. This is wonderful to see. I'm just loving it. Did you go straight from your sculpt to printing a mold rather than printing and then pulling a mold from your print?
There is one coming up where we went straight from the sculpt that's actually on Noah, that we went straight from the sculpt, did an underskull on him. You know, we had his head cast, we scanned that. Did a sculpt on that, broke it down. Yeah, this is it. Oh, it's not on there?
Yeah, it's here.
Oh.
Screen. No, show the screen.
There it
There
is.
you go.
Did a sculpt on that, and the understructure on that. Also did the mold, digital printed mold, and then printed the teeth and printed the, you know, the understructure. That's Santa Claus.
Is that for the same
It is
feature?
Santa.
Is that for the same feature?
That's the sort of an intro into that feature, yes. I mean, these are all kind of from the same feature.
And that's
Yeah, this is, yeah, so I mean, obviously it's like a Cthulhu sort of a creature, even though they were calling it Azathoth. But yeah, this is the underwater shot of it in slow motion. So I mean, all sculpted, you know, ZBrush sculpted, and then my shop foreman, Gil Liberto, molded everything. Rod printed it out. And then I assembled it and painted it and threw it in the water and poured a bunch of milk behind it.
Oh, that's what that is? That's
Yeah,
milk?
looks like clouds.
Do you know how slow the frame you went?
It's 160.
160.
Yeah. No, it's whole milk.
That is a good question.
This works so well, and
Almond.
you know, I was actually I was going to try half and half to get a little thicker milk, but not my pumpkin spice latte.
That's a good idea.
Oh, there's the mold for that.
So does this have more? Is this just a headpiece for this one we're looking at now?
It's just a headpiece at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's your mold. So this is the one that's straight. You printed it
Yep.
from. You didn't do any casting. Okay.
yeah. Smoothed out, you know, obviously it had teeth. You can see the core below it. It had teeth on there. We had to smooth that out so we could get a casting that wasn't.
So you used live boolean to cut into this, and then made that, and then just 3D printed that. I'm assuming that's
Yep.
what you did.
So technically, extracting, I like to extract double in
extracted
and out.
it. Okay.
So I can control the thickness of the mold in and out, because then I Boolean and making sure that the sculpture itself, all the detail is exactly taken out of the extraction instead of dealing with making the extraction hug the face at the right resolution and all. So it's usually double, and then just subtract the sculpture from it. So it's more of a general mold with extreme detail.
So you do an extract to get the mold that you want, then you just reuse the head with live boolean to cut it out.
Yep.
And then you
So
3D
double
print it.
extract, so
Yep.
it goes in the model and out the
And out
model.
of the model,
And
okay.
then, yep.
Yeah. And then you printed this one on what printer? Do you remember?
I think this one was on the
Max.
probably the Frozen on the Mega 8 because it just
Just fits?
just fit on that, and
Just
it
fits.
didn't fit on the Anycubic.
Oh, yeah.
So, and with all these machines, you go, okay, well, the Anycubics have been really reliable and fast. The Mega 8 is extremely reliable, but a little bit slower. So it just depends on speed and what we need.
What was the print time? Do you remember?
This one was probably, was it 3 days?
Yeah,
3 days?
yeah. It was a bit. I mean, you know,
48
all the big ones are a bit.
Yeah.
Then you have printer anxiety looking
Yeah,
at
like
every hour.
fail.
Fail.
Supports that go
Fail.
off into space. It's like,
Fail,
well,
yeah.
hopefully that doesn't affect.
The best ones are the FDMs when you get the spaghetti. You come in, oh, look, I made a meal. It's a spaghetti. I love those ones.
But the machines have gotten more reliable. When we started off, there was more of a keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But now that time has gone on, it's really reliable. We still say if the printing gods allow it, it's going to happen. But most of the time, it does. And if
And they're more durable, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, when I first started, like, you know, before Rod, like, was working in the studio with me, you know, I tried printing stuff on my own, and I'd be, you know, it's like, oh, I got to do this and make sure this is. So now it's like, hey, I put the thing down, screw the, not, pour the stuff, let's go. And it works, like 90% of the time, it works. Just barrel through it.
Oh. And I've been using the package for a long time, so there's tons of ways of doing the same thing, and that's what can make ZBrush challenging as those that have used it for a long time. You kind of go, well, you can do it multiple ways. You find the ways that work for you, and that's fine. You don't have to use everything in the package. And I think Joel is constantly expanding his awareness of the package, but truly, he sits down and just cranks out art freely with it. And good old Dynamesh, so many of the core tools, because in our business when we're sculpting, even though we have access to tons of sculpting tools in real life, you end up having your favorite 5 in your kit, or your favorite 5 brushes. And the same is in ZBrush. It really is.
Okay, so that's a great segue question here. Then for you, Joel, you just got into ZBrush more a little recently. What are, for you, coming from a traditional world, which Rod, you as well, come from a traditional world, what brushes would you say, hey, if you're someone watching right now, you're from a traditional world like yourselves, both of you, what brushes would you guys say are the must-use brushes for you?
Oh, well, clay buildup, damn standard. You know, snake hook, actually, I've been doing hair stuff. Dave Grasso turned me on to snake hook, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah, what about you, Rod?
Same
Especially as an
thing.
instructor, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm big on just clay buildup because it's just like roughing out anything in clay. Keep it rough. Don't try to get into the details so fast. So for me, it's just really roughing it out, whether it's Sculptress Pro, but I'm so used to Dynameshing, you know, control, drag, that's fine for me. It's just part of the flow. And then damn standard for going in, whether it's Z-add or Z-subtract for detail, you could do so much with just that, really.
Yeah.
And then for details, obviously like getting texturing, and when we say texturing, we're talking about sculpting details, not color texturing. What you're doing still old-fashioned like you would in clay by hand? You're not using any alphas to do
Oh, I
anything?
use alphas all the time.
You're using alphas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost finding that, you know, if I block something out, it's almost better to go in with the alphas then, and then, you know, you can diminish.
Early, you're getting early. You're
Yeah,
trying to
and
do it early.
then you can, like, it picks up, you know, because one of the cool things that I liked about sculpting, like I don't do it anymore, like about sculpting in clay is that there's a lot of happy accidents that happen, you know, that's like you're smashing stuff around and it's like, oh, this looks pretty cool. Let's follow this wrinkle into something. You can get sort of a similar feel, at least I can, with, you know, some of the alphas. Just throw some alphas on there and it's like, oh, yeah, it's picking up something that I may not have thought of before.
And I do, again, if everyone just had a scanner, I'd like to work with clay at times too, because that was what I grew up with. So sculpting with 2 thumbs and feeling it is a different sensation. But then being able to go into ZBrush and use all the crazy tools, if you can do that, if you can get a scanner and jump back and forth, that becomes really a broader approach to it. You get the best of both worlds.
I mean, what you're looking at here is not entirely sculpted in ZBrush. It's molded in ZBrush, but it's sculpted and it's resculpted in ZBrush, but it was based off of a scan from, I just did the Haunted Mansion, and we had a Hatbox Ghost, right? And that was the Hatbox Ghost minus some augmentations to it, like, you know, he's got a nose and he's got all his teeth and that kind of thing, but that was based on a scan. And I find that working off of a scan of a sculpture, it feels to me like I'm still playing with clay, which is my fallback. You know, like I don't know if you've got the bronze Vincent Price in there.
No, let me do a little dig.
You know, in playing around more and more with ZBrush, I've been doing, you know, like you know, one of the early films I did, you do rings for like movies, like the movies that I'm working on, right? So one of the first films I did that for was Pirates of the Caribbean 2. And I've been doing more, and I started, now that I know ZBrush, you know, somewhat, I've been doing that in ZBrush. And, you know, the detail obviously is insane. So why, you know, you're trying to sculpt detail on something this big, you know, blow it up to this and sculpt as much detail as you want in that.
So this is for the most recent Haunted Mansion, is that?
These are some bronze pieces that I sculpted in ZBrush, but this one in particular, Vincent Price, I did a traditional sculpture display piece for my studio. And when it was all finished, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, there's something weird about the eyes, you know? So I had Rod scan it, took it into the computer and tweaked the eyes so that now it feels more like, you know, like Vincent Price.
And then you 3D printed it, and then that...
3D, actually, I sent it to American Fine Arts.
Okay.
I just sent them the file, and they
You went to AFA?
Yep.
Okay. Well, who's up next after you guys?
Yeah,
Look at
exactly.
that. That's...
I mean, all of this you're
We
seeing
didn't plan
here,
that. It just happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a small world, and all of this you're seeing here, AFA did for me.
So you're almost like doing a full circle in a lot of your work. You're starting hand, clay, scanning, digital, 3D printing, coming all back forth.
I mean, not necessarily always starting from a scanned sculpture, but, you know, that's certainly where...
How big are these? So this is a bookends? Are these
bookends, exactly.
And how big are the other ones? How big was the Vincent Price?
Vincent Price is maybe 14 inches, something like that. And the bubonic jack is about the same.
Perfect for Halloween. Perfect for Halloween again.
These are the rings.
Oh, he's pulling up rings. Oh, here you go. Oh, very cool. Very nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is based on the ZBrush version of the original sculpture. Same with that. I had a Karloff, came out better than the Vincent Price, but we scanned it anyway, and I took it into there. That's the original Hatbox Ghost before I changed it.
So are you selling these? They want to know. Are you selling these?
Yeah, I could sell those.
Well, you got to... Yes, I will make some money. Yes.
Yeah, the industry shut down right now, so I'll sell everything you see right here.
Do you have a webpage you'd like to share?
Yeah, morphologyeffects.com. I think it's .com.
Could be .net.
Yeah, maybe. Try both.
Try.
If
Just put it in
bunch of
Google.
weird heads show up, that's the one.
So I'm assuming these are silver?
Yes, they're 0.925 silver. Yeah.
Well, now they want to know, like, how much? How much are you talking
I mean,
here?
they're big, so make me an offer. I don't know. I haven't priced them yet, but we're going to put up an Etsy store. I think my wife is going to run it. And,
oh, nice.
you know, so
They're beautiful.
thank you.
Beautiful pieces.
Thanks.
They're great.
Always a fan of the classic.
So you just started doing these? Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
You just started doing the line of rings, or you've always were?
I mean, I've been doing them since Pirates 2. I've been doing rings on Pirates 2, I did a ring, traditionally sculpted. And I was selling those things like crazy, man. There was a line of people outside the makeup trailer
Really?
wanting to be. They became like a crew ring.
Were you doing it in wax, or were you doing it in monster
I
clay?
sculpted it in Chavant, and then
Chavant.
I molded it and sent it to my foundry, and they did a production mold off it. And I'd say, I need a size 10, or I need,
And so now
size
these
8,
you
whatever.
ZBrushed, 3D printed.
ZBrush, printed in, what is it, the Onyx wax,
Yep, the
wax
wax.
resin, and then send those right to the foundry.
And then they did the lost wax. You just whipped that right off the
yeah,
print.
Printed it. There's no production mold because it's, they're one-offs. I can print it any size I want.
Right.
Yeah, and the what's interesting, there's the Uncle Creepy one. Always a fan of EC horror, but this one was, in just playing around with the last one. Yeah, that one. I was like, oh, you know what might be kind of cool is to get the lantern to sort of swing freely. Because initially I had sculpted it and it was all part of the thing, but we just did a couple of standoffs, left the loops loose, so it printed them loose.
Yeah.
And then once I got it done, I sent it to the foundry. They took it back. I cut the silver standoffs, and the thing swings freely. It's really annoying, but it's kind of cool.
Does it cling?
Oh, yeah, a lot. You won't be able to, like, if you need something from your pocket, you'd forget it. You're not going to take your jewelry.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're inspiring somebody here. They're like, now I need to get a printer and start selling some stuff.
Yeah, right?
what you've done.
I mean, it's like you're a toy factory.
Yeah.
It's like, and I've heard that said many times, but it really is. It's like you get one of these printers now, and they're so cheap these days,
Yeah.
Not cheap, inexpensive. You can kind of make whatever you want.
Beautiful.
Fun.
Yeah.
What else we got? Oh, the exteriors from Old Time Radio. So in playing around with, in ZBrush, it's like now everything I go into, I'm like, well, how can I use ZBrush in this? It's like, what's the shortest distance? It's like, okay, so I've got a series of films called Old Time Radio, and all the sets are printed, 3D printed. This is the opening of one of them, and then you'll see some clips from the next one. Rick Baker.
Yeah. I was just about to say, is that Rick?
It is. But the cemeteries, it's sculpted and printed. The house, same thing. Rod did all the visual effects work on this, as well as being one of the characters in the movie.
So forced perspective, I'm assuming?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is, I turned the whole thing into a winter scene for the next.
Oh, wait, the car? The car? Was that a little car?
That was just off of eBay, or Amazon. A little
Okay.
Amazon car. We rigged with lights. Neat though, it's got some exhaust.
I just noticed it at the
Bad
bottom. I
for
was like, there's the car moving. So this is for a project you're doing? Or
Yeah, this is a film I'm almost done with. I've got those being 2 or 3 of them. I've got 3 more visual effects shots for the exterior, and then I'm done with that. That's all I got. Let's talk to Rod.
Let's talk to Rod, you're up.
No, truly, I would hope as a teacher, hopefully this is inspiring to anyone watching that it was maybe ZBrushed a little bit. Don't be afraid of it. It really is.
I can do it.
Because Joel, of course, is coming to the table with years of experience as a sculptor, as a painter, and a makeup artist. So yes, his work is going to be at a certain level, but that shouldn't stop you. And you should take, again, I couldn't be prouder as a teacher to have someone take, it was a 4-day class, just a 4-day class, 4 hours each on Zoom, and took that information and created all of this. So, first of all, to Joel.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Al.
So hopefully that's inspirational to anyone watching to pick up the package and try.
Or to pick up the phone and try to get him to do it, which is much harder.
Well, you're teaching other places still, yes?
No.
Say never mind,
I
he's
was
not.
I was teaching for about 10 years. While I was doing my own stuff, I had a chocolate line. I created all the characters and molds for it, for this little chocolate fubby character. So use
It's on
ZBrush.
ZBrushSummit.com. You used it for your headshot.
Yeah,
You used it for your
That's
headshot.
the one that I'm holding. And I used it for store displays, for making the patterns for the molds for chocolate. So that was my main focus before the pandemic hit. But I had been teaching at Cinema Makeup School for over a decade, teaching this. Some people would be enthusiastic. Some people were there because they were just, their parents signed them up in some way. So you had a mixed bag of students, but everyone hooked on. But then you have people that rise to the top in that. So with that, I got spoiled by Joel, but I didn't want to teach it on Zoom. As a teacher, I leave it on the floor, as they say, so it's very exhausting for me. I always say to students, don't make me go home and lie down on the floor. So when Joel asked me, we finally did it. And
Yeah, he taught it lying down on the floor.
Pretty much. So I do not teach it anymore. Pretty much once Joel asked me to join him on Panther, which I joke, it's like Gilligan's Island. It was only supposed to be a 3-hour tour, and somehow it lasted more. And that's because with working with Richie and Dave and Noah and the team that he puts together, it just is fun. We have a great time, and it's play. So many things that the reason why I was drawn to this kind of came to fruition at an older age. So you should never even say, I'm too old for that. Not the case, because we've had so much fun on projects that we went on and did Haunted Mansion together, Red One, which is coming up with Dwayne Johnson. We're doing R&D for Moana. There's so many things that have happened that I couldn't have even imagined, and it is, even though it's a business, and we have the same work ethic of, just like Steve was saying, you never miss a deadline, you get it done. We hope to do it at the highest level. So we're crazy workaholics that way, but even in that workaholic world, it is a playground of fun.
Yeah. Touching really quick on Red One and sort of some of the other things we've used ZBrush for is we have a character in Red One, and when you start a big project like this, is a big Amazon movie that's coming out next year. You get designs. They have an art department on usually before you start, and you do a lot of designs, they do a lot of designs, and you sort of, narrow down what the look of a character is. There's one main character in the midst of, 25, I think, other, prosthetic characters. But it's one main character. The design is done not taking into account, who the actor is going to be. Steve mentioned something about that, not starting a character without having your actress. But we had to start. We then got a scan of our actor. They cast the actor. We got a scan of him. And then it was up to, I think actually, Dave, you sculpted this character, finished it as a maquette. And then once we got the scan of our actor, Dave had to conform it to that. And conformed it, got that approved, printed out a full-size head so that Dave knew exactly what he was going to be sculpting on Christopher, is the name of the actor. So it was a one-to-one. I mean, and it went really quickly, and that's probably because you had the sort of the lion's share of the work done, the scan done, and the printout right there. It's like one-to-one transfer.
So then, Rod, as a instructor that's been doing that for 10 years plus, especially with artists that are traditional artists coming from that, getting into ZBrush, any little tips that you would give? Hey, if you're wanting to get into ZBrush, you're a traditional person, here's some things that I would recommend, maybe some places to go and see, else videos or anything like that?
Well, there's a lot of excellent videos online from you and the team.
Yes.
So definitely go and take a look. And what is the light package that's available now that doesn't have the drop it to 2D?
Yeah, so there's three. There's ZBrush Core Mini. That's the free one.
Okay.
So it's just sculpting, really. That's it. Then there's ZBrush Core, and then ZBrush. So ZBrush Core Mini is probably the one that you're referring to. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. And it's just sculpting.
So that's what I would recommend.
Yep.
If you're taking a class, go for the full version, because there are a ton of things in there that are beyond useful. But if you're feeling like a little scared and it's daunting, go to Core. ZBrush originally started off, it has a lot of something called 2.5D. It's not really 3D. It's sort of like, for those that use Photoshop, it's liquefy. It's able to pull the screen in X and Y in this direction. ZBrush came out with the ability to pull it out of the screen in the Z direction. So it's 3D, but you can't rotate the picture. So it's kind of stuck there. That 2.5D is in the full version, and you can accidentally sometimes drop your 3D model so it gets stuck to 2.5D, and that throws a lot of people that are starting off. They just don't know. So you can avoid all of that and go with Core and just sculpt.
I didn't have anything to do with that. That one's not me. I'm just saying it now. Yeah, because ZBrush actually started more as almost like an illustration application. For those that know, it actually won awards for illustration in the beginning days. So it's giving you the ability to use 2D, 2.5D, and then the 3D mode now that you can have. Which percentage? Anybody using 2.5D in here? I'm just curious. Okay.
Paul, it's a wonderful thing.
I need this on record.
It's a wonderful thing. 2.5D is a wonderful thing.
Listen, there's a lot of crazy tricks you can do with 2.5D, honestly.
Absolutely.
And we just added. Do you know we added something for 2.5D?
That's what I was going to say. You have drop 3D now.
There you go.
There you go. So people that drop 3D is in the world of where it was accidentally not a good thing, now it's a useful thing.
Yeah. It's not drop the mic, it's drop 3D.
Drop 3D.
Drop 3D. So what it does, what Rod's talking about is what it does, just so you all know, if you took a very, very low polygon surface, you can drop it now, and when you sculpt on it or paint on it or do everything else you want, when we pick it back up, we automatically give you the resolution so you don't lose any detail at all. Thanks for watching the videos that we put out. It's fantastic. You know what? Yesterday, one of the presentations, right, the Capcom one. The guys were up here showing stuff, and then I went outside, and a bunch of other artists like, I had no idea you could do this and that. I'm like, what are we doing? I don't know what's going on here. What do you mean? This has been out for like 3 years. It happens every year. This is why we do the ZBrush Summit. We want to be connecting and having you guys all share information. So really, it's been awesome, too, to have you guys sharing everything you've been doing, too.
Thank you.
I'm just seeing if we got any more questions. Any questions in house? Oh, we got a question in house. I'm trying to see what questions we have online. Is up. Coming to you. I'm bringing the mic to you.
You were talking about the making a ZBrush, making a negative for making a mold of something. I've got a project I'm working on, and that's something that I could use. So I may want to talk to you later, Rod. So okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
He'll be around. He'll be around outside by the printers.
Yeah.
Any other questions here inside that I missed? Oh, in the back. We got. I'm coming. Far back. We're going to the far back over here. I'm on my way. I'm going to bring you the microphone so we all can hear what you're asking.
Hello. For the pumpkin, like, little animatronic you made, is it fully, like, animatronic? Like, there's no post effect in the walk test?
Oh no! I mean, you can see the rods on the walking test. So Rod was actually puppeteering at that point. Rod and Noah. So you can see the rods. So that would have to be comped out.
Gotcha.
But the facial animatronics, the expressions in the face, that's all internal.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I was curious about the face because it looked very. It looked like it was post effects, but I guess it's. All
that's
practical.
old school.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's old school
that's
animatronics
so cool.
right there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, doing a combination of both what you guys been doing. comes together, right? For
Yeah.
digitally. Yes. Got another question. Oh, we got another question up front here.
So more on the business side of things, when you guys come up with like an idea for like the template for the head paint, and do you capitalize on that at all, or is it like you're just helping production? They're like, sweet, thanks, you saved us, and that becomes the new norm? Or is that something that, like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of people love to take advantage of things that other people come up with, and I didn't know if that's something that actually like helps you other than making it a little bit easier. Is that something like, yeah, we charge for a day, we got it done in half an hour, we get to like go home early or something?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I think that, and this may not answer that question directly, you know, the sharing of information I've always been, you know, a proponent of. You know, Dick Smith, godfather of makeup, you know, always shared information. And I think that that's where, you know, my particular industry, you know, got to where it is, you know, as sort of quickly as it is and with as many innovations as it, you know, as it has. So, you know, guarding information, I'm not really fond of that. You know, and, you know, certainly, I mean, everybody here is, you know, perfectly capable of coming up with, you know, those kind of ideas. You know, it's just implementing them and finding the right place to implement them. You know,
Less too in terms of not sharing with other artists, but more like Disney. I don't think Disney needs help with saving money per se.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's more like on that end of things. Like, does a big corporation take advantage of something like that, or does that really benefit you guys more? I guess is more.
well, it certainly benefits us, and benefiting. When I say that, what I mean is it benefits the actors. You know, it benefits the production, benefits, you know, the other crew members who don't have to get there at, you know, let's just say 2 a.m. And you know, in turn, there's, you know, the goodwill that, you know, hopefully goes both ways, you know, and the actors appreciate that. And then the next time, you know, Denai needs to be Okoye, she's not going to want to sit for 4 hours. And certainly somebody else could come up with, you know, what we've just demonstrated here. But, you know, she thinks I'm funny, so she'll probably call me.
Put that in the resume, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I will make you laugh
By
when
the
you're
way.
in the chair. So quick question here coming from online. Any tips for sculpting a character for animatronic puppetry?
I would say no. I don't think. I mean,
go.
it's like, because I sculpted that knowing that it was going to be, you know, animated later. But it's like I didn't. You know, I don't like to confine myself to like, okay, well, this is where this has to go. It's like, you know, I'll find the room. I'll find the room for it. If the head's big enough, you're going to find the room to put stuff in. If not, you're going to figure out another way to do it. You know, and you know, just approach it from a different direction. But, you know, no, I would sculpt your character so that you're happy with it. You know, you're happy with it because it's your character, it's your artwork. Do what you want. Sculpt it the way you want to see it, and then, you know, start figuring out how you're going to make it work. And then the beauty of ZBrush is that, you know, if there's, okay, well, this isn't quite going to fit, well, let's just, you know, change it, and, you know, and that's an easy, you know, let's make it a little bigger, and you can do that very easily.
All right. Oh, wait, we got one more question because time's up. So you're going to get it. I'm coming to you. You're getting the last question.
Really, we talked for an hour?
these guys. Yeah, it's already been an hour.
Good for us.
Yes.
So if someone's looking at getting started in making something for animatronics, how do you go about learning, say, the mechanical animatronics part of it? Because, you know, we're here for the sculpting. The mechanical side of it seems like a completely foreign language to me.
It is. Also a very good question. That there used to be, I mean, there, you know, when makeup effects were in their heyday, and Steve can attest to this, there used to be some amazing animatronics people, and there were a lot more of them than there are now. And then, you know, sort of CG came in, and you know, we lost some. You know, we lost some really good, you know, mechanics. You know, the team I work, you know, it's just like ZBrush. I'm not, you know, expert in this, so I have Rod, you know, and you know, I'm not an expert mold maker. I have Gil, you know. You know, I have Richie, I have Dave, I have Noah, you know, and these guys, everybody has their strong suit. I would say just find somebody whose strong suit is animatronics, because they are still out there. You know, John Criswell did my work on that. He works for Henson. Befriend them.
And I would jump in and say, it depends on what level that you need this. You can hop online. They have so many different kits to control just servos with the little pipe circuitry, and you can hop on and create a lot of animatronics on your own. CAD systems are available to do your planning, just like ZBrush. ZBrush, I was trying to call up over here, but the computer has a little spinning wheel that Jim Randall, who creates beautiful armature wire for stop action, and we've both known Jim forever. Jim created a piece for Joel a long time ago, and it's been in this beautiful case on a shelf.
Stop motion armature.
Stop out. And with that, Joel was like, well, why don't you scan it for me? So I scanned it with the Artec, and he brought it into ZBrush, sculpted a figure for it, and within a very short amount of time, put that skin on that armature. It's kind of working from armature out to create a character. But like with Steve, Steve has his character, and then engineering, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, built the structure. They built the structure to support that outer design, correct? So what Joel was saying of don't hold back, create the outside, you can figure out the inside. The software's out there to do it with conjunction with ZBrush, and I say pick up the little Pi circuitry and some servos just on Amazon if you're working on just that level. And if you need to go to the higher level, then we are talking about a little bit more sophistication. But it's amazing what you can do just with things that are available now, programmable from Amazon. Don't be afraid to experiment with that.
All right, on that note, unfortunately, we got to let them go, get off the stage. Joel and Rod, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being a part of this.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.